Hello, Namaskar, and welcome to PGurus Prime Time. Today is Thursday and it is Ask Karthik time. Karthik Gopinath, welcome to PGurus channel and Vanakkam.
Vanakkam sir, how are you? So we missed the last week's episode, so I think we make up for it this time. Hope to make up for it this
Yes,
time.
yes, we will make up for it this time. And do we have news or do we have news? We have a lot to cover and we are going to start with Kerala today. And Karthik, in Kerala, a lot of things are happening, but looks like, from what I can see, the duopoly of the dual fronts seems to be eroding, and now the lotus is starting to bloom because you look at the other people, very interesting things are happening. What can you share us about Kerala?
Oh, Kerala is of course taking an interesting turn here. There is a paradigm shift, both from the commies as well as from the Congress. So I'll just tell you what has happened in Kerala. Basically, the political scenario seems to take a change. So this duopoly that you had mentioned had started in 1982 when they started this UDF and the LDF. So basically, UDF is the Congress-led front and the LDF is the commie-led front. So this time, for the first time, it has so happened that after one full term, a chief minister has returned to power. Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan has returned to power. And noticing this, the Congress High Command, which is basically Rahul Gandhi and company, they have sidelined a few old timers. For example, Ramesh Chennithala has been sidelined, Woman Chandi has been sidelined, which has actually led to a few eyebrows being raised within the Congress camp. So the opposition leader is right now Mr. V.D. Satishan. Also, the party president is Mr. Sudhakaran. So Sudhakaran hails from Kannur, which is a heavily politicized place. In fact, it is a bastion of the left. And despite that, they have been considerable support for Mr. Sudhakaran. So these two people have been given the chance. But then the reason for a bit of dissatisfaction within the Congress camp is that all the selection of candidates was done by the party high command. There was no say for be it Woman Chandi or be it Ramesh Chennithala. It was all the central command that decided it, and they went with that. And despite that, some heads have to roll, and it is these people. So they have changed a bit in order to counter the change that the CPI has come in with. They have come in with a lot of adaptations. The first one, the prominent one that stands out is, of course, they have sworn in the name of God, not in the name of conscience, like in the case of Tamil Nadu leaders. So, which is a huge change. And again, this has surprised a lot of communist supporters. They've also shunned a lot of rigidities because they understand that, yes, this time we have made it through. But if we don't bring in large sweeping changes, it's going to be difficult for the next time. So they've shunned a lot of rigidities. They've brought in 3 females, which is a first for a progressive state. Also, they have kind of sidelined the old timers like we've discussed the last time. So now the CPI has come with a new political style, and so is the Congress. But the worrisome part here for the BJP is they do not have even 2 or 3 seats to get into the legislature, which could have been a bargaining chip for them to pull in a lot of Congress leaders. So imagine a scenario if there were 2 or 3 seats that BJP had backed this time. Backed this time, it could have happened that a lot of leaders from Congress would have jumped the side and joined the BJP. But that did not happen. And all BJP has done this time is they have nominated 4 non-political people, which is Metro Man Sridharan, Jacob Thomas, who was the ex-DGP, C.V. Anand Bose was also a prominent bureaucrat, and of course, actor Suresh Gopi. So all these people have been given the task of going to find out why did we lose this time so badly despite putting in so much of effort. So it is a win-win situation for the Congress and the CPI who want to change their style of politics, but there's a lot of work that the BJP has to do to cover the ground. Duopoly has definitely ended, but then there is no significant change which is an advantage for the BJP. Having said that, BJP should use this opportunity to shun its rigidities here and make new moves and make new partnerships here.
They need a photogenic face or someone who can really fire the imagination of Keralites. Do you see any such political leader on the horizon? For example, Mohanlal was considered a candidate. I don't know what happened. He is wisely still. Is he still waiting in the sidelines? I don't know. What are your thoughts, Karthik?
My thoughts are, see, listen, the entire South BJP has this problem of not having a prominent face. So even in Tamil Nadu, you do not have a prominent face that carries the message of the central command to the people. A lot of programs, for example, PM Modi's program of giving 10 lakhs to the orphan child, people who've been orphaned in this COVID-19 situation, has not reached people. Whereas the Stalin's program of giving just 5 lakhs to the same children, the same target audience, has reached the people, which goes on to say that you do not have attractive faces here. And in the case of Mohan Lal, I don't want to burn my finger again, once bitten, twice shy. I backed my hopes on Talaivar, Mr. Rajnikant. So no more backing the actors, I would say. So anyways, getting back to the point, you need young leaders, you need young inspirational leaders who can actively get onto the ground, face the wrath of the communists, face the opposition of the Congress, and then do the needful, for which you can't have old timers. Of course, you need the Margadarshan committee as well, but then fresh blood needs to be infused as well.
And for those of you who have not seen Kerala, I can tell you politics is 24/7 by 365 in Kerala. You know, there is one big national highway up and down the coast side, and you can see, you know, every 30 kilometers or so, there'll be a small pandal left on the side of the road. There'll be 10 chairs, 4 people will be sitting, and one guy will be talking. And I'm always wondering, every time I go on that road, I'll be seeing some meeting or the other. And I'm wondering, what is it that these guys have? So they are a very politically active state. However, they need to wrap their heads around what is happening outside of Kerala. Hopefully, you know, someday they'll realize the benefits of allowing a national and a nationalistic party to come in. I mean, all I can say is pray and hope. I thought Dr. Sridharan was that, moment where things would change. Unfortunately, it was not to be. So moving on, Karthik, next question for you. Aisha Sultana, sedition charges. What is happening in this case? Why is the Pinarayi Vijayan government getting so flustered about it?
As you can see, they consider it to be a vassal state of theirs. They consider Lakshadweep to be some of a part of their state. So they keep passing resolutions where they don't have a jurisdiction. For the last time, they did pass a resolution condemning the appointment of an administrator who is of not their choice, who is somebody preferred by the center, a non-bureaucratic person. So I don't know why they do it and waste public time. But in this case of Aisha Sultana, she is a director. So she was invited for a debate in a channel where she used words which is completely derogatory. It cannot be accepted. She says the center used a bioweapon. She says it was because of the center that the COVID spread is huge in Lakshadweep, which is understandable. You can have your opinion. But when you come out and say that center used a bioweapon against Lakshadweep, that is clear case of sedition. And that is why the administration, the administration is controlled by the center. So she was called to the DGP police headquarters for an investigation. She was not called for arrest, or she was not even arrested. So immediately she goes to the High Court, where she quotes these two cases, the very famous Kedarnath Singh case as well as the Vinod Das case. So both these cases are quoted by her learned counsel, Madam P. Vijay Bhavani, who says, see, listen, in these cases, it's been said that there needs to be some kind of a violence for you to invoke Section 124A and, put the sedition charges. But see, the respondent have come out really well. Advocate S. Manu says, even the tendency to incite violence is sufficient enough grounds for you to invoke Section 124A. You go out in public and say, despite being a person of repute, you go out to a reputed channel and then say the center is dropping a bioweapon on its own territory. This is definitely something that is inciting. Tendency to incite violence is definitely there. And similarly, they've also argued on another point, that is the Guru Baksh Singh case, where they say just because you have a fear that you will be arrested, it is not a ground for you to go and get Section 438 CRPC, that is, go and ask for bail. So the council clearly put, we are not in a haste, we just want to inquire this person. And then finally, of course, her counsel, Aisha Sultana's counsel, comes out and say, we don't want to quash the FIR. We don't. We want just to prevent the arrest. Moreover, there is no evidence out there which can be tampered by this person. So please give us protection. And finally, the court comes out and says, listen, we will give you protection from arrest, but you have to cooperate with the authorities. So this is a significant case where some people claim that it is victory for Aisha Sultana, whereas others claim that it is victory for Lakshadweep. I think being called for investigation, any person need not go for anticipatory bail. They have to just go cooperate, and if after that there is some problem, you can approach the courts. The courts have been very lenient this time and considerate, thankfully. But again, as you can see, Kerala is trying to extend its arms into the Lakshadweep and create a lot of issues here, use all its political clout, probably some kind of a toolkit again, ask the directors, ask the actors to speak against the state. And this is becoming a pitiful trend here.
And let's now move on to Telangana and the political stratification that is taking place there. Karthik, I don't know if you've been following much of Telangana, but I don't do much, but once in a while it kind of falls on my ears. Now, the sister of Jagan Mohan Reddy has announced that she's starting a new party, political party there. And this is a clear attempt to try and see, okay, now I have Andhra Pradesh, now I'm going to try and see if I can put my footprint in Telangana also. Because these are all, at some point prime ministerial hopefuls. They just want the number so that they can plead their case more effectively. What do you have for us from Telangana?
As you rightly pointed out, there have been attempts from parties in Andhra to extend their reach into Telangana. But then the trend that I wanted to point out is, see, when it comes to regional parties, there is clear stratification. They reach outside the particular state of origin, although they claim to be nationalistic parties, is very limited. So in this particular case, as you rightly mentioned, Y.S. Sharmila, who happens to be the sister of Jagan Mohan Reddy and the daughter of YSR, she started a different party. It's called as YSR Telangana party. It is not the YSR Congress. And they want the people to forget that these people, her own father was against the formation of the state of Telangana. But then the response on ground has been really bad. People do view her with a lot of caution because of her anti-partition tendencies before this partition had happened. And so there is not much welcome there. And similar attempt have been made by the Telugu Desam party as well. In fact, Telugu Desam party was formed in Hyderabad by the great man N.T. Rama Rao. But it so happens right now that despite winning 2 seats in Telangana, both the seats, the MLAs switched parties to KCR Congress party. Yeah. So it shows that, KCR. So they just want to move on. So there is clear stratification. I don't think YSR or for that matter YSR Telangana Congress or TDP stands any more chance in Telangana, which clears the path for BJP. Now, there is another interesting trend which I want your viewers to be aware of. A lot of them will be aware. So, KCR can go to jail, says the BJP Telangana president. He says, during his tenure as a central minister, the Sahara and ESI case needs to be reinvestigated. There is a lot of role for him in that, says the BJP Telangana president. And now there is a lot of party hopping happening. The prominent ones being, of course, Ettala Rajendran. I'm sure you must have heard the case of Ettala Rajendran, who was one of the most prominent leaders who had demanded that there needs to be another state of Telangana. He was the right hand of KCR. Also, Konda Vishweshwara Reddy and Jagadish Reddy all are like in the waiting to switch parties from KCR and move on to either BJP or the Congress. So this particular leader, Mr. Ettala Rajendran, he's a backward communities leader. He hails from the very political district of Karimnagar, and his constituency is Huzurabad. So he has a considerable clout in that particular place. So he was the finance minister in the first tenure, that is 2014 to 18, and then he becomes the health minister. So there have been the relationship between KCR and Ettala has been like a love-hate relationship, and ever since his first term ended, the relationship was not good. In fact, people were surprised when he was given a portfolio like health. The advantage that this person has is fluent in both Telugu and Hindi. Now he's been sacked by KCR on what allegations? On allegations of land grab by him. So there is a 42-page report submitted by the collector to the High Court saying that there is allegations of land grab against this particular person. You know what the High Court did? The High Court pulled up this person. In fact, Justice T. Vinod Kumar says, how can you form a report within 24 hours of the complaint being given? So he had digitally surveyed the area and put up the report in the High Court. The High Court clearly said, we do understand it is a digital report and you need a digital compass. You need to take it around and understand the place. How did you submit it so early? And the question asked was, did the collector sit in his car and do the survey? So such protection was given to Ettala by the High Court, and then he was not arrested, but nonetheless, he was sacked from the party. So there needs to be a by-election. So here is the interesting situation. You see, BJP is caught in no man's land. If it takes in Etala Rajendran, which it did eventually, he went in, joined in front of JP Nadda, but the reception given there was kind of lukewarm. Dharmendra Pradhan was sent there, not the top three or somebody else wasn't sent. Dharmendra Pradhan was sent there. And the dilemma in which the BJP was there is we need KCR in case there is some kind of a backlog in future. In case we're not able to make grounds, KCR can be an effective help, just like Patnaik or just like Nitish. KCR is good. But if you want to make grounds in Telangana, you need a strong face. But they had burned their finger in West Bengal. But again, they did not portray that face. So here there is a BC community leader coming out and saying that KCR is being an authoritarian, and his wife. The interesting fact is Etala's wife, Madam Jamuna, she runs the poultry farm, which is alleged of this land grabbing. She is a communist. Now her husband is getting into BJP. So it's all marriage of convenience here. So BJP's choice of having Etala with him, with themselves, I don't know if it's going to backfire or not. But then KCR has ensured that not many party hoppers are rallying behind Etala. However, he takes 150 people along with him to Delhi in order to go and join the BJP. So this is what is pretty much happening in Telangana. The by-election is going to be interesting because it is a make or break for Etala Rajendran, and also it's significantly watched because KCR's legacy is going to be questioned, and again allegations of family politics and authoritarian regime are taking shape right now. Let's hope that the by-election will give an idea as to where the people of Telangana stand.
And speaking of family politics, KCR's daughter lost from Nizamabad for the member of parliament, and there were murmurs that the rank and file of the party didn't show up for her, because see, KCR's legacy is KTR. He is hoping to get the mantle. He doesn't want brothers and sisters. Same thing like what we see between Stalin and Kanimuri. Stalin seems to have at least sidelined temporarily Aragiri, because Aragiri, one doesn't see him much until I don't know what happens. But so you see that these family parties also, they are all going to be me, I, me, myself, and we have to wait and see who wins and who comes out on top. So now let's take a look at Andhra, and I'm very happy to note the progress of events as far as Mansas Trust is concerned. Karthik, you can bring us up to date on what happened, and I'll give you a bit of a background after you've given your say on how this thing came about. So please go ahead.
So why this becomes important, the Mansas Trust judgment becomes important, is this is a huge trust started by PVG Raju in 1958. So they have estates spanning 14,800 acres, roughly worth about 50,000 crores. And they have a number of institutions under them. So roughly 108 temples, 12 institutions, both schools, colleges and higher educational institutions come under their banner. Also Mahalakshmi Narasimha Temple Trust, which is kind of like a huge cash cow, also comes under them. So naturally, there was an attempt by this Jagan Mohan Reddy's regime to change the chairman of the trust. So Ashok Gajapati Raju was removed as chairman, and his niece, that is his brother's daughter, Sanchayita Gajapati Raju, was appointed. So this was challenged in the courts by them, and then the courts rightfully decided that it was Ashok Gajapati Raju who was the deserving chairman, because his brother Anand Gajapati Raju was subjected to a lot of corruption allegation when he served from 1994 to 2016. So this being an important hub of so much of land and so much of resources, the Andhra government made an attempt to put somebody who is listening to them, somebody who can become a puppet. So that attempt was rightfully thwarted by the courts. And I also happened to come across one of the articles where you had done extensive research about the same. So please do share to your audience and to me as to how interesting this development is for you.
Yes, indeed. And viewers, I want to take you back a little bit in time as to what happened before this Simhachalam, this Mansas Trust and all this thing came about. See, there is a court case that is pending in Andhra Pradesh High Court about whether TTD should be given back to the original people who were managing it. So if you go back in the lineage, if you start looking at who it was who was being the benefactor of the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, it starts amazingly after Mahabharata. Janamejaya, the son of Parikshit, who himself was the son of, I think, Abhimanyu, if I'm not wrong. So Janamejaya is supposed to have visited the temple and found that it was in disuse, and he's supposed to have cleaned it up. And for the next 2,500 years, it was the Pandavas who were essentially taking care of this temple. They were the benefactors. I mean, their dynasties, even if they evolved and became smaller kingdoms and so on, Pandavas used to be the benefactors. And then the Cholas took over. For a long time, Cholas also were benefactors. And then under Krishna Deva Raya, the temple really prospered because he showered jewels and pearls and kiritams with precious stones and all that stuff, and then and so on and so forth. Then around, I think, 18th century or so, Hathiram Trust was given the responsibility of managing this temple. Now in I think 1933, the British government, the then British government, took over this temple, and they said, okay, we are going to run it, and that's how TTD was born. And then so on and so forth. In 1983, N.T. Ramarao brought about a lot of changes, some good, some questionable. Good things were that it was easier to wait on the line to get the darshan of Balaji. There are other things that I will not talk about right now. But long story short, what happened is, if you look at who would be the person that the AP High Court would look to in case they say that this shall go back to the original owners, it would have been Hathiram Trust. So under Jagan Mohan Reddy regime, what they said was they passed an order to unseat the current chairman of Hathiram Trust and replace him with an administration of IAS officer. When that happened, Hathiram Trust went to Andhra Pradesh High Court. And during that time is when PGurus released this article about who did the TTD, who owned it, who are the puja vidhanas, the agamas who laid it down. It was actually done by Ramanuja. I mean, you look at TTD, the best and the brightest among the different centuries, they all worshipped here. I mean, this god is very powerful, guys. I mean, I don't know how many of you have been there and seen it or whatever, but Balaji is a very, very powerful deity. And so what happened was, we said that this is what had happened, and this is how Hathiram Trust is the rightful owner, should there be a thing. Now, a lot of the research that he had presented was used in the arguments, and the control of Hathiram Trust went back to the Hathiram Trust. They have a some parampara, gurus and all the matha head and all that stuff. Now, after that, Jagan Mohan Reddy's government unseated Ashok Gajapati Raju, and he brought Sanchayita. By the way, Sanchayita, I hear, is a BJP member. So let's put the politics aside, guys. Let's just take a look at. I am looking at Sanatana. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Having talked about politics, Jagan plans to shift the base to Vizag,
Yes.
his executive capital to Vizag, and his recent visit to Delhi to meet the powerful man, Amit Shah, I think has paid dividends, and that is why he seems confident and he's rushing up things, and a lot of additional infrastructure is being built up, the bureaucracy is being shuffled, his favorite people are being brought into Vizag, and plus a DGP office is also being built there. A lot of things happening there, and this meeting with Amit Shah is also an indication of the fact that their dependence on the center is growing by day, because even for the Polavaram project, there has been cost overruns, there has been time overruns, so they need a lot of backing from the center, and that's why he went to Delhi. That's why he went to Delhi and met Amit Shah, and there also I think he's put a word about shifting the capital, and I think he's got the go ahead, and that is why things are moving in war front. Having said that, there's also a lot of meeting that is happening in Delhi right now. Probably we'll discuss that when we reach to the Tamil Nadu section.
Sure. So let me finish my story.
Yeah.
So when this takeover happened, Sanchayita became the managing trustee or whatever the position is, the top person in the Mansas Trust. I had invited Swami Kamalananda Bharati, I think. He was very closely involved with this temple. And this was an interview that took place. It is available on PGurus channel. Those of you who can who want to watch it, you can get the feedback or background on the Simhachalam temple, which is the second richest temple in Andhra Pradesh after Balaji temple. And he had mentioned there that he is going to use the judgment of Hathiram versus government of Andhra Pradesh in this case. And sure enough, it pleases me as punch that a year later, that something that PGurus did has actually resulted in something that is good for the human being. So for Sanatanis, and I'm hoping. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. And remember that Ashok Gajapati Raju was removed without any kind of a investigation into, because there were no complaints of corruption or anything like that. It was just a power grab. That's all I can tell you. So anyway, so I think now things are coming back on even keel. Let's see how things go in the future. But I'm really hoping that TTD will come back into the hands of private bodies, because it is my firm belief that the revenues from that place alone can be used for a renaissance of Sanatana Dharma all over the country, in fact all over the world. Thank you very much. I'm sorry to take so much time. Let's take a quick look at next is Puducherry.
Pondicherry. Yeah.
Well, we have to be politically correct. We have to say Pondicherry. Unfortunately, I don't have the text here, so let's keep going. So on Puducherry, looks like the new assembly is now in place. Is it in session now?
Yes, it has started, and we have a new speaker, Mr. Selvam. So this time the Pondicherry Assembly has 14 first-time MLAs, which goes to prove a point that, like, listen, it doesn't matter who you are. If you take the right place, or if you take the right choice, you'd probably get a chance. So BJP had given a chance to a lot of first-timers, and 14 MLAs are first-time MLAs, and he is the 21st speaker, Mr. Selvam, and he appeals to the House that we need all the help that we can get from you, because the opposition has a lot of experience, so you can chip in and you can always give your recommendation, which is just a gesture of goodwill, but then it's being done. And also all of them have been invited by Honorable Madam Tamilisai Soundararajan, Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, and they had a tea party. The interesting thing is DMK did not boycott it, and Congress could not take part because they do not have a member in the legislature. So yeah, they don't have any members, so they did miss the tea here. So there was a tea party, and things are pretty normal there. So last time that we had a conversation, we did discuss that the opposition parties were telling that BJP was trying to hijack the government here. BJP was trying to enforce its will on NR Congress, but nothing of that sort has happened. So far, so good. Everything seems all right. And we hope and pray that there is considerable development here. But then I need to point out to a hypocritic approach that BJP has here vis-a-vis Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry. So people are very vociferous in Tamil Nadu. BJP members are very vociferous, leaders are very vociferous in demanding for prohibition in Tamil Nadu. But on the other case, they can't afford to do it in Pondicherry. So I do want to know, what is your take on that?
Well, Pondicherry is a place where Chennaites go to let off steam. You can interpret that in any way you want. And Pondicherry is the Goa of the East Coast, if you also want to think of it that way. Feni, that maybe there's beer. It's a, Pondicherry has that French tradition. Even Subramanya Bharati, in order to escape from the British, took refuge in Puducherry. Let's call it Puducherry. Puducherry, right? So it's got a very colorful history from the past. And these kinds of things where we will ask for prohibition in one state, these are all flexible, because it is whatever it takes to try and capture the imagination of that state. I mean, guys, you always accuse, not you, and viewers accuse me of being a BJP guy, a Modi guy, and a Trump guy. I'm not. I'm an independent person, and I see something, I see it as I say it. If you look at the pros and cons, you have to call it where you see things are going right or wrong. So anyway, that is my take. And having done all the other states, we don't have much on Karnataka this week. We'll have more next week. A lot of things happening there. But let us take a look at the big enchilada, Tamil Nadu. I want to really know about my good friend Kishore Swami, who has been a guest on our channel, and he has talked about politics of Tamil Nadu, and we all know that he had a very anti-DMK stance. Looks like DMK has extracted revenge, and even though he was expected to get bail. Looks like the number of cases against him is starting to pile up. I don't want us to, go into the merits and demerits of these cases. That the court will have to decide. But at least you can tell us the chronological order, what is happening to Kishore Swami, because I feel that he was a one right-wing voice, and this is being deliberately done to snuff out right-wing voices. Because I fear for Maridas, I fear for you, I fear for others who are trying to make a more balanced stand. This is not the way Mr. Stalin is going to become the Prime Minister, just as I know zero chances for Mamata Banerjee to become the Prime Minister also. Please go ahead.
Okay, so it was a surprise to me and news to me that Kishore was on your channel, PGurus. I somehow missed that episode. I did watch when Maridas was on air with you. But the case of Kishore K. Swami, I mean, you don't need much of a research to understand that this is highly politically motivated. Because the first complaint on which he was picked up was given by a DMK IT wing guy, I think from Kanjipuram. So he had given a complaint that there were derogatory statements about Anna, Kalaignar and Stalin by Mr. Kishore K. Swami. I do agree that, see, when there are sections in the IPC, you have to follow it, and it is for the law enforcement agencies to take the necessary action. But on a case which borders on libel, defamation, or probably inciting violence, which has not been tested in the courts, you don't have to go at 2 a.m. in the morning and arrest the person. He's not an absconder, he's not a history sheeter, or he's not a criminal who's done heinous crimes. And when you have standing orders from the DGP regarding arrests at this junctures, if it is a serious crime, you can go and arrest it. But if it's not a serious crime, avoid arrest is what the DGP had said. Despite all that, just because of the pressure from the DMK IT wing, this arrest was made. And subsequently, his bail plea hearing is also being delayed. They say that the police has not submitted the report in time. And there are a number of FIRs being added on. In fact, his legal counsel had no clue which sub-jail he was lodged in. People went to Saidapet sub-jail, and then they went to Chengalpet sub-jail. No visitors were allowed. Only his legal team, one person could go and meet him. So this is a clearly politically motivated arrest. It's vendetta politics. And now there is another FIR given by a film actress by the name Rohini for a crime probably which was committed in 2014. It's a cyber crime, bullying. So I am with the opinion that if there is something wrong that is done by any person, they have to face the music. There is no doubts about that. But in such cases where it is clearly visible, for example, take the case of Mr. A. Raja, who was the Minister for IT. The kind of statements he used against the erstwhile Chief Minister's mother is highly condemnable. Similarly, Dayanidhi Maran had said statements about the scheduled caste, which is very demeaning. R.S. Bharati had used similar statements. The current finance minister calls everybody dogs. He talks ill of a lot of people in front of the camera, in front of the press. So when you have a party who has guest speakers, star campaigners, who indulge in slander as a part of their profession, I don't understand the logic in which Kishore K. Swami has been taken in. So this is clear bias from the ruling party, and I'm not taking Kishore's side, but at the same time, I hope and pray justice shall prevail, because just recently, Kalyana Raman had been arrested on similar charges. It was for stroking communal violence, and he had to be behind the bar for 3 months. They put a number of FIRs, piled it up, used goondas, and then put him behind the bars. So the ruling dispensation is trying its best to muffle voices, gag the press. I don't think it will be successful. Kishore's case will definitely become viral, and people will get to know that such political activities against freedom of speech needs to be condemned.
Karthik, someone told me that there are approximately 6 factions arrayed against Stalin. I'm just going to try and recollect what the 6 factions are, but you will get the idea. The first and the most significant one is the Kanimuri faction. Then you have the Udaynidhi faction. Then he has a son-in-law, I don't remember his name, Sabarisan's faction. Then and then there are a couple other people. So all these people are actually trying to work at cross purposes to whatever Stalin may be having as his agenda. There could be some, people also say that out of the 6, 5 are essentially just interested in making money. They'll go and try and insert themselves in any transaction and try to make a problem for one person until then the problem goes away. Once the greasing happens, this is the standard operating procedure. I'm not saying that
Who's the one
ADMK
not interested in making money? I'm surprised.
one is more dangerous in the sense that the person is really causing trouble is the Kanimuri faction. This is the faction that is really perhaps trying to think that, oh, if this person can become the chief minister, I too should have a right. So these are all again one person's observation, looking at the politics of Tamil Nadu and saying that these are all people working at cross purposes. But Stalin needs to figure out a way to rein in all these people. He certainly cannot take his eyes off of governance. He's the first time chief minister, a lot of challenges there. And it's not easy to govern a state like Tamil Nadu. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on the politics of Tamil Nadu. So what else do you have for from Tamil Nadu?
We have a lot with respect to Tamil Nadu. The problem here is now see selective highlighting of rape cases is happening in Tamil Nadu, or cases of sexual assault or sexual crimes are being reported by the media here. For example, there is this Shiv Shankar Baba and the PSBB case which gets all the media attention. I by no means will want to defend any of these people. But then what is being conveniently ignored is the case of Vairamuthu. What is being conveniently ignored is the case of Miyasi. I want you to look into this case when you find time, and probably online magazine called Commune has done considerable work. The students of Miyasi had gotten in touch with me. So this college is run by New College Management. This management is an Islamic management. I am not saying there is a connection, but I am just stating the fact. What has happened here is there is one professor by the name Anwar Sharif who happens to be the grandfather-in-law of Dulquer Salmaan, who is Mammootty's son. All right.
So,
grandfather-in-law.
Viewers, let me just step in for a second. So, Mammootty or Muhammad Kuti is one of the icons of the Kerala movie empire. There are 2 heroes there, Mohanlal and Mammootty, and these 2 are they're considered the 2 reigning king heroes.
The Rajni Kamal thing.
Yes. So Mammootty's son Dulquer Salmaan, I think he's also acted in some Hindi movies, if I remember correctly.
He's doing really well for himself. Not a big follower, but yeah, he's doing really well for himself.
So this now go back and please continue.
Yes. So this person's wife's grandfather is the person accused. So there have been a number of screenshots shared by the people. The alumni associations form a group of students to investigate this stuff, and they write a mail to the organization stating that some action needs to be taken against these people. So there are 3 accused: Anwar Sharif, Tuyavan, and Solomon. There needs to be action taken against these 3 people. But what has been done is the moment they receive this, the very next day they go to Stalin, and the college gives a donation of 1 crore rupees for the vaccination fund, which is alleged by many of being a hush money, so that nobody talks about this. So what I'm saying is, every rape case or every case of assault on women or every offense against women needs to be viewed seriously, both by the political spectrum and the media. But if you watch carefully, the pattern is such that if the affected party belongs to a minority, or if the accused belongs to the majority, only those cases are being blown up. So this is a selective reporting being done here. So the case of Miyasi needs to have at least an investigation and tell us as to why this is not a true complaint, because the students have come in large numbers. Just like the modus operandi is similar to PSBB. They share screenshots in Instagram and that becomes viral, and then the media takes it up. Here they share screenshots, but a lot of people are threatened to take back those profiles. In fact, it was brought out by one of the erstwhile professor who worked with Miyasi, and she had to take it out for God knows what kind of pressure she was put into. So this is happening here. And apart from that, we should also look at the 10 minutes meet that Stalin ji had with Modi ji. So there is a lot of talk that, a lot of importance is given to Mr. Stalin. He's been given a bulletproof car, which has not happened before, which is a farce. Because this has happened before. Mr. Edapadi Palaniswamy was given the same kind of welcome, but it is that he does not create a huge photo op because of this, or create a news because of this. He just goes, does his business and gets back. But Mr. Stalin goes out there, finishes the meeting, comes out to the press, and in fact, it was just 15-20 minutes before I could see that press conference. There was nothing. He just reads out his election manifesto, and he again uses the word Ondriya Arasu. just to show the Tamil Nadu audience, to play to the gallery, to say that, listen, we've come here and we've made a statement. So I don't think the Stalin Modi meet so far, as I've analyzed, is going to be of any benefit to Tamil Nadu. It's just to go make a statement, and it is just to have a photo opportunity. It is just to do the same thing. See, I don't understand in what language they would converse when there is a 10-minute one-on-one meeting scheduled between Modi and Mr. Stalin, because he doesn't know Hindi and he doesn't know Tamil. So I don't know what kind of conversation they had. In fact, in my video, I had tried to, portray it in a funny way. But the serious aspect is we need to have some connecting factor here. The chief minister cannot be. See, recently NDTV had interviewed this Mr. Stalin before the elections, and they asked him a simple question: "Are you an atheist?" Which is kind of their core ideology, and he couldn't understand that particular question. And now he's the CM of our state. I wish him luck in dealing with the affairs, but this meeting is just an eyewash, and I don't think Modi dispensation would be happy with this, or is it going to be of any benefit to Tamil Nadu?
All right. And
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
we need to understand that the kind of blatant lies that is being put forward by the ruling dispensation here. For example, they say that they have opened the task mark when the situation has become better, which is not the case. The last time ADMK had opened up the task mark, it was done outside Chennai where the case load was high. But in this time, when they did it, the case load was somewhere around 16,000 when they opened up the task mark. And the reason that they give is because of spurious liquor. So are you going to say that there was no spurious liquor the last time ADMK had opened up? Because the last time ADMK had opened up the task mark, which is the liquor shops, Mr. Stalin, Udayanidhi, and everybody had come out in open and said, "Are you killing people right now? Are you giving the money and swindling it off from the task mark and so on and so forth?" But the same thing is being done by the current administration, which simply goes on to show that the Dravidian politics is banking on this. The Dravidian politics is cheating people by saying blatant lies. For example, the health minister, Mr. Ma Subramanian, comes out and says that the center had asked us not to disclose how much vaccine that we possess. But simply the guideline given by the central government was, don't disclose details related to even app, which is the other vaccination that is given to the children. So there is blatant lies being told by the ministers, which is actually disheartening, and the power cut problem here is unbearable. In fact, unscheduled load shedding happens across the state in all the districts. In fact, Karur, which is supposed to be the hometown of Senthil Balaji, who is the power minister, faces so much of power cut. There is so much of death in Corona. But despite all that, what is being spoken about is Stalin had donated a cycle to a kid. Stalin had given a job to a person. And all this media PR is only being done here. The situation here is not that good. And just to divert the issues, there was criticism on the rise about opening up of task marks. So they wanted to divert the issue. They want to arrest make some high-profile arrests. For example, Kishore was arrested, and across the political spectrum, a guy by the name of Sate Durai Murugan, who was very much against Kalaignar and very much against Mr. Stalin, was also arrested. And the moment he got bail, there were other cases put on him and sent back to the jail. And his leader, Mr. Seeman, is very silent. He doesn't care about all these things. So this is the state of affairs here. Again, you know about the Archagar issue, where they want to bring in lady Archagars into temples which have been established by Agamas, which you can't do it according to various judgments, which includes the Seshamal judgment, which includes the Places of Worship Act, in violation of Places of Worship Act, which includes the Tamil Nadu Temple Authorization Act 1947, Rule 8 and 9. So against all these things, they just want to bring about some sensationalism and say that, listen, we are not anti-Hindu, we just want to be inclusive. But behind the scenes, the intentions don't seem that right.
The most important question or takeaway from what you just said, Karthik, is that the electricity minister Senthil Balaji needs to come out and say if he has approached the center in case there is load shedding because of maintenance, that the power plants have been shut down and that's why the generation has fallen. Because as far as I know, India's national grid is fully capable of sourcing the needs of any state. And that needs to be come out. That all the data has to come out. I don't think in summer people should be suffering. Your thoughts?
No, the problem is he doesn't blame the central government. In fact, he blames the previous administration for it.
Oh,
What he says is the transformers were not maintained properly, the transmission wires were not maintained properly, and so on and so forth, which is very difficult to verify. You see, but there were no load shedding problems in the last regime. We had, if not 100% power all the time, we did have some occasional and sporadic load shedding, but this time it's like across the state and it is so widespread, and they just want to pass on the buck to the previous regime saying they didn't maintain the transformers. So I don't know what's happening here, and it is definitely not the center to blame, because we know that the power grid is well managed, and especially the southern areas are power surplus. In fact, from power deficit status, we did go to surplus status in ADMK regime. I don't know why it's all screwed up here.
well, I think the explanation is bunkum, because there is nothing to maintain on the wires. The wires are going to be out there. Once you lay it, it's done, and it's going to be standing up in rain, sun, whatever. It's made of aluminum or other things like copper, which does not rust. So all that is specious explanation. And as far as transformers is concerned, transformers can heat, and there could be a problem with the oil, but then these are not some things that a state can ignore for months together and then suddenly start breaking down.
It
I
doesn't
don't buy
happen
that.
across the state, you see.
It
This can
also
happen
cannot
in places.
yeah.
It cannot happen across the state in all the districts.
No, these are all specious reasons. I think it's important to tell what is going on, and these are all predictable. If you know that these are under repair, then why don't you try and you say that, okay, we have to get so many extra transformers so they can swap things out while the repair is being done in the lab. I just don't buy it, Karthik. There is another reason for all this, but let's not go into that now, because we are almost 46 minutes into the program and we still have to go through questions for you. So is there anything else you wanted to add, or are we done with the...
There's plenty, but I think we'll take it on the next time. So we'll go to
All
the
right.
questions right now.
Here we go. Aam Aadmi Topics wants to know, why is the media suddenly waking up to illegal Bangladeshis / Rohingyas in Dakshin Bharat?
Because of the number of crimes that are being reported. For example, the Bangalore issue that happened, where people had gang raped and uploaded stuff. So there was link with the Bangladeshi cases. And you can't turn a blind eye forever when it comes to the Rohingyas, because there have been a number of cases reported in different parts of the country. They've spread across different parts. You have camps which is going to Kashmir, and for what reason? So I don't know what is the connection between Rohingyas and the Kashmir, but then camaraderie could be one reason, but I don't know. Apart from that, they are being spread across different parts of the country, and it is becoming a law and order problem. Number of people have been caught by NIA out here as vegetable vendors. Under the garb of being vegetable vendors, they are being caught. And in Kerala, few people had gone out of the country to join the ISIS, and their husbands, after the marriage they had blown up a few buildings and died themselves. Now they want to get back to India, and Pinarayi Vijayan calls them as fighters. Pinarayi Vijayan doesn't even call them as terrorists. He calls them as ISIS fighters want to return, and India doesn't want to accommodate them. So such issues are happening. So Rohingya case is definitely a ticking time bomb, and it needs to be dealt with, and I'm happy at least now it is being taken up by the media. There needs to be more reporting, and there needs to be neutral reporting. I totally agree that they cannot be painting everybody in the same color. So there needs to be
We seem to be having some difficulties. It should improve in a minute.
I'm patient.
Karthik, we are losing you. Can you try rejoining again, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Only thing is the video is off. Hang on. Just
Yeah.
1 second. Just one
It's just
second.
that you can't see me, right?
Yeah. Just 1 second. Let me see if I can. It could be. Yeah, it's come back now. Just 1 second. It's back. Just 1 second. The resolution is poor. I'm going to try once to try and set it right. And if it doesn't work, we will just finish up with just you being on the audio. I'll tell you just 1 second, okay? I'm doing it on the fly here. Thank you, guys. Thanks for waiting. We are back. Okay. Now, Karthik, the next question is it true that George Soros is behind the infiltration of Rohingyas into India? Why would George Soros be interested in filling up India with Rohingyas?
I'm not sure if George Soros is behind filling up India with Rohingyas, but is definitely behind filling India with hatred. So all the media campaign that happens here is indirectly funded by George Soros, and people say that don't bring in stories out of the blue. Don't let your imaginations run wild. But then I've done a special episode about this in another channel called News Guru Tamil, where I clearly said what is the link between this George Soros and the various missionary activities that is happening here. So it is being heavily funded by him. A number of organizations, number of NGOs here receive funds from there, and they carry out a propaganda against the established government. So when this is being done, I don't think there is any problem in inculcating another anti-national into this camp. So all I'm trying to say is I'm not very sure about if George Soros is behind funding these people, but George Soros is one person who is not very India friendly, is something that I feel.
Next question from Vignesh Sivakumar. Iyer sir, can you do one video with Karthik on EVR fully on what all lies are being propagated for the last half century? EVR.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, we have done a few with Professor RV. Please go ahead.
Oh, you did, and somehow I missed it. Okay, so I'll go to
It's
your
been a
archives.
while. Over time, we have done it, but yeah, we can do it a very objective way. There is a
No,
movie
we need
called
to do it for the global audience.
Yes,
We need
yes.
to do it for the global audience's sake because, see, the kind of image that is being portrayed here of Mr. E.V. Ramsamy Naikar, or Periyar as they call him here, it's all roses and daisies. It's like he is the Mahatma of South. In fact, they gave him an award called Socrates of Southeast Asia. They said this award was conferred on him by the United Nations. The biggest lie. Because first of all, Tamil Nadu doesn't fall under Southeast Asia; it falls in South Asia. So the guys who cooked up this lie didn't know geography basically, and then they carried this on for like 30, 40 years until recently when this myth was debunked. When some right-thinking individual said, "Wait a minute, when did this happen?" And they went into it and they understood that UN did give anything. They created a UNESCO mandram somewhere in Chennai and they gave it to him. And this becomes a lesson in Tamil Nadu textbooks. So see, that is how blatantly these people have been lying. And see, there have been a number of social reformers in Tamil Nadu. All those people like MC Raja, Ayoti Das Pandit, there are a number of people who work for this cause of the upliftment of the poor and the downtrodden and the scheduled caste. But those people are deliberately sidelined by these Dravidian Dravidian politicians who are the ones who make the textbooks here, who are the ones who help publishing various articles here. They deliberately keep others out and have Periyar because it's their patriarch. And with that, their party can grow. So that is how the education system is being rigged by these people. So all I'm trying to say is, see, I am not a person who wants to go out and scold Ivera, but I do want the people to know all the things that he has done and the way he has been portrayed. And so you can choose for yourself as to what the truth is.
Yes, indeed, and we will do that thing in the near future. Thank you very much for the suggestion.
We can have a series on that.
Yes. I agree. Totally. Let's do that. Vignesh Sivakumar again wants to know, Karthik, what's your opinion on Congress minority appeasement politics that has currently taken place in Uttar Pradesh, which is in the news currently?
Oh yeah. See, Congress is doing all in its power to get back to some kind of meaningful representation either in the assemblies of the states or in the parliament. Since the parliament is far off, now they are trying to do what they can in Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. So recently, I'm sure you must have noticed that UPCM had booked the Twitter and a few Twitter atties for spreading falsehood against the state. For example, an old man was coerced to chant Jai Shri Ram, but when the fact was checked that there was no such incident. But all the Congress people, in fact, including Rahul Gandhi and the Twitterati who support them, and the liberal journalist, and the so-called fact checker, Mr. Zubair, the so-called fact checker, he shared the video saying that yes, such an incident has occurred. So what is the use of having fact checkers there? The Congress is desperate there to show that, listen, Yogi Adityanath is a very big danger. You can't have him around and you can't be safe. And this kind of hate politics and hate mongering is being carried out by them forever. And I don't understand how they are doing it now. They've been doing it for a long time and calling themselves the protector of minorities. But this time, I don't think the stunt is going to work out, and UP is going to be the final nail in their coffin.
Next question from Krishna Mahatre. How can water bodies, lakes and ponds be saved and rejuvenated in Tamil Nadu?
First of all, my concern is saving the people from the current establishment. But see, a number of people masquerading under the identity of being an environmental protectionist do quite the opposite here. They are either paid by the left or by other political parties to either delay the project or stop them. So reliance on them is not possible. So my suggestion for that would be community-based development and having community-based stakeholders. For example, if there is a district and you have a block within the district, you map it, you geo-survey it, and you display it to the public. And then you take youngsters from there, college students, school students, give them marks, give them assignments, and whatever corporate or whatever industry is there, their CSR needs to be first spent for the local environment, and then they could go elsewhere, because the 2% of book profit is heavily misused by them, and it is being spent, and there's no proper auditing for those cases. So I think if you involve the local community properly and you give them a stake in that, and you give them something to cheer upon with that, they will do a better job than most fake environmentalists.
Dakshinamurthy has a question. AL Aushadhi, a Kerala government company selling medicines out of cow urine, as reported by some news portals. Left usually is sarcastic towards cow urine, medicine, etc. Is the narrative changing, or is it hypocrisy?
It's plain hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy 101. So in fact, this is a land of
Ayurveda, right?
This is a lot of traditional knowledge is available. Yeah, it's a place where a lot of traditional knowledge is available, and just because of the political dispension, I think their original potential has not been achieved. So I think if there is meaningful representation apart from the Congress and the communists there, all this potential can be explored. And as you rightly said, yeah, it is nothing but hypocrisy when you want to call every BJP supporter as someone who consumes cow urine, and you make an economy out of it, and your medicine is thriving out of it, and you don't want to acknowledge it. I think it's out there for the public to decide.
Dakshinamurthy again, here's another question. What is the new controversy on Surendran? This is BJP president of Kerala.
I'm not very aware of it, so I think I should go a bit deep into it and before
we'll get back to you on
that.
this one.
I did hear some.
Yeah, Vijesh Kumar wants to know, Kollam-Theni border now is a hot spot for terrorism. What is your view? Kollam-Theni.
So we had discussed a number of times. Sorry?
Kollam, Koilon and Theni. The border is a hot spot.
Can you come again, Sree?
Yeah. The viewer.
Okay.
Kollam and Theni.
So this is okay. So this is not news to us. So we've been discussing about this for a long time right now. So Kasaragod, Kollam, and Kozhikode, these places, they are turning into hub of extremism, which is something which all of us know. In fact, the number of recruits that have gone to ISIS is the highest from South India, which comes from the state of Kerala, followed by Tamil Nadu, and of course southern Karnataka, which borders Kerala. So all these areas have been exporting these terrorists, and somehow coincidentally, the MLAs that we have are also hardliners. And these people have been there, the MLAs there for a long time. The law and order is, in fact, the sale of land in these places is also something that you have to watch out. No non-Islamists are given land here. Strict fatwa is being issued in some places. So having said that, all these places are being converted into Islamist strongholds, which is not wrong. It's okay with me. But when it is being converted into fundamentalist strongholds, and when the CM of the state wants the return of people who want to support a terrorist organization like ISIS, there is something that needs to be done here. There needs to be a large-scale revamp of the political thinking in the state. Otherwise, things are going to only get worse from here.
Karthik, another Karthik wants to know, why is BJP not using M.R. Gandhi and ex-IRS Saravana Kumar properly?
See, XIR Saravana Kumar is a new import to the party. I wouldn't agree that he has not been used properly. Probably his potential is not explored yet. So this guy is a brilliant number guy. He gives statistics and answers questions very rationally. But I'm thinking that probably in the next elections he'll be given the proper role, and even with respect to the party organization, the role that has been given to him, as he rightly points out, is not huge. So he has to be pepped up further. But with respect to M.R. Gandhi, you see, again, I pointed this out in a number of interviews. The kind of push that you had given to other leaders, the kind of celebrities that you brought in for others, you didn't do it for this little man.
And yet
He's
he
little
won.
only in height. He's little only in height, but yeah, metaphorically, he's what he's done is huge. I don't see, and the media doesn't talk about it, which is very quite. It is quite obvious. But even the BJP, even the BJP's IT wing does not promote him as much as you could. Having said that, he is not a very voracious speaker. He is not a public orator, but his organizational skills and his dedication could be put to better use. And you could definitely elevate him to a higher position within the party rank, so that you set a model. See, this is the kind of dedicated people we want into the party. We don't want film stars. You give film stars tickets, and 1 week before that they were going hammer and tongs about Modi. The entire TN BJP setup needs to be revamped, and youngsters need to be bring in. Annamalai needs to be put in the forefront, and of course M.R. Gandhi needs to be the party ideologue or something like that, at least for Tamil Nadu. Only then things will change for good here.
I could continue on, Karthik, but unfortunately we are having technical difficulties. Last couple of questions, there were quite a few drops. I think I want to kind of draw a conclusion now, and then we'll come back again. It's about an hour and 2-3 minutes. And we'll come back again next Thursday. Please bring in your questions ahead of time so we can ask them. And thanks for joining, Karthik. And we'll be back next week, next Thursday, same time, same place. Namaskar, namaskaram, namaskara, namaskaramu, vanakkam, and namaskar. Bye.
Vanakkam, Jai Hind, see you soon. Bye bye.